There's a lot of wrestlers that are good every week with good TV matches, good promos, good segments. But then there's wrestlers who consistently level up once the match actually matters on pay-per-view and tournaments and title matches and dream matches. And when the expectations get really high, they always seem to deliver. AEW's built their reputation over those kinds of wrestlers over the years. At this point, whenever AEW announces a major match, there's an expectation that it could be one of the best matches of the year. And I got a little curious, so I decided to look through the top 200 highest rated AEW matches on Cagematch. Also used the Wrestling Observer ratings for a little bit of skewing and averaging out. And one thing that does become really obvious is certain names just keep showing up, and it's very consistent among the top 100. So I wanted to figure out who AEW's best big match wrestlers ever have been, based on what these cage match ratings say their match quality, consistency, and placement is, and how often these wrestlers deliver when the stakes are high. And honestly, these results probably look exactly how you think they do. Now, obviously, having one great match doesn't automatically make someone a big match wrestler. A lot of wrestlers can have one classic, but the difference would be consistency. The people on this list show up over and over again in pay-per-views, tournaments, title matches, and matches with massive expectations attached to them. And that part's probably the hardest part, because high expectations can ruin a match. The more hype that a match has, the harder it becomes to actually exceed those expectations. Which is why this ranking isn't just based on who appeared the most in the top 200. I looked at how high the matches were ranked. When it came to the Meltzer star ratings, I looked at 4.5 stars and above. Overall consistency, opponent quality, variety, and how often they made matches feel important. Because some wrestlers have great matches, but other wrestlers consistently become part of AEW's biggest moments. And starting off with number 10, we have Claudio Castagnoli. Claudio Castagnoli might legitimately be one of the dark horses of the AEW roster. He's one of the most consistently good wrestlers in AEW. I think that almost makes people overlook him, because he's always involved in something, and he's never involved in something that people hate. He's almost like a keystone of multi-man matches. He's been involved in Blood and Guts so many times, the Anarchy in the Arena so many times with the Death Riders and the Blackpool Combat Club, that the things that he's doing in these matches are partially making these matches. If you look at the list of people he's faced, Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr., Jon Moxley, Konosuke Takeshita, Continental Classic, Anarchy in the Arena, Brody King. Now he's facing him again. And the interesting part about Claudio is how many different styles he fits into. Technical matches work. Heavyweight fights work. Trios matches work. Send him to CMLL. Lucha Libre matches work. Tournament matches work. He's pretty much one of AEW's safest bets if you need a match to deliver physically. And once the match heats up or gets more intense and more competitive, Claudio usually gets even better. Next on this list is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF's placement average is kind of ridiculous, honestly, because he appears less often than some people on this list, mainly because he wrestles less often than most of the people on this list. But when he does show up, it's usually near the top. The Danielson Iron Man match, the CM Punk Dog Collar match, the entire feud, honestly, the Adam Cole matches, the Ospreay match, the Darby match, the Four Pillars match. A lot of MJF's biggest matches feel structured differently from most AEW matches as well. They usually build slower. It's more involvement with the crowd. Higher and higher escalations than most feuds go. And by the final few minutes of a match, the audience is usually completely locked in emotionally on what the result will be, which is likely MJF's biggest strength as a big match wrestler. He understands drama extraordinarily well. Coming in at number 8, we have Konosuke Takeshita. Konosuke Takeshita's rise over the AEW roster has been insane. Statistically crazy. Because if you go through the highest rated matches of AEW history, his matches keep popping up. Ospreay, Omega, Moxley, Darby, Ricochet, multi-man matches, the Continental Classic matches, all of these scoring extremely high. What stands out with Takeshita is how heavy everything he does feels now. Everything he does feels so heavy and so physical. There's so much weight behind almost everything he does, even the simple stuff, the forearms, the front kicks, everything. And because of that, he naturally fits well into high-pressure matches. And at this point, he's not an underrated wrestler anymore, and he's in a position where AEW trusts him in the biggest of situations. And honestly, I cannot wait to see how the Takeshita and Okada feud blows off. Next up, we have Jon Moxley. So Jon Moxley became one of the most versatile wrestlers in the industry in all regards. And that's why he ranks this high. His great matches are all over the place stylistically. He's got violent brawls, death matches, technical matches, faction wars, arena brawls, tournament matches, main events, world title matches, just everything, literally everything. And despite people debating his style online for all these years, the actual match quality on average is crazy. People will bring up the early Death Rider run string of matches. That's when he was really forming this style that he's still doing. People seem to like it more now because he's doing more, because he's not trying to hold the company hostage anymore. He's champion, but not the top champion. Like, people will bring up that match with Adam Copeland at Revolution where Christian Cage cashed in, and the result, people didn't like that match very much. But even with that match, you can't ignore the Hangman feud. On top of that, Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, Orange Cassidy, Konosuke Takeshita, Wheeler Yuta, all the anarchy in the arenas and Blood and Guts and Continental Classic matches. That whole Continental Classic stretch where everyone thought he was going to start losing out, but he ended up winning the entire thing. One thing he's really good at is making matches feel unstable. Times things are just out of control, chaotic, not in place, nothing at all. He's got a special way of cutting momentum. Really enjoy it. And in big AEW matches, Jon Moxley's style works very well. Next on this list, we have Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland's rise in AEW has been one of the fastest jumps into the top tier. And the interesting thing is how high his matches rank. So fast. He signed in about 2022, and since then he's had the Hangman Adam Page feud, which the matches involved in that just individually changed how people view Swerve Strickland as a whole. Then you add the Bryan Danielson match at All In, the Ospreay match at Forbidden Door, Ricochet at Revolution, the world title matches he's had, All In tag matches, and now he feels fully established as one of AEW's core big match guys. A huge part of it is his presentation changes too. Swerve's matches feel important before they start. He's got a new huge entrance. He'll bring the pace down. Crowd goes crazy for him every single time. And then he gets in the ring and picks apart his opponent limb by limb. His presentation feels very deliberate, and once AEW fully committed to him as a main eventer, his match quality got so much stronger. Coming in at number 5, pairing them up together, of course, we got the Young Bucks. At this point, Matt and Nick Jackson are probably legitimately and honestly the greatest big match tag team performers in the wrestling industry, first of all. Second of all, AEW history. The amount of highly rated matches they've had is absolutely absurd. And it's not just a spread of very high matches. It's like they're very confined at the top. The Revolution Hangman and Omega tag match, the Lucha Bros cage match at All Out, the FCR matches, the Death Triangle matches, Sting's retirement, Ospreay and Fletcher, Swerve and Ospreay at All In. The list just keeps going. And whether people personally love their style or not, their consistency is near impossible to argue with. They understand pacing really well. They know how to make their characters work, whether they want the crowd to love them, to hate them, to laugh at them, to jeer them, whatever it is. They know how to get the characters to work. They know how to make their opponents feel big. They know how to make their matches feel big. So they very deservedly rank this high. I still would like to see a Nick Jackson singles run just for the vibes. And coming in at number 4, we have the Hangman, Adam Page. Hangman might be AEW's most emotionally effective wrestler, because almost every major Hangman match has some level of emotional investment attached to it, whether it's anger, sadness, pride, hope. We can talk about the Danielson matches, the Swerve rivalry, the Omega story, the Moxley feud, the Ospreay match. Even a lot of his multi-man stuff feels so emotionally charged, and deep into a match that does make the difference, because the audience starts reacting to near falls differently once they care in their heart, which Hangman is near perfect at creating that feeling. Hangman tends to make his matches feel personal, even when they're technically just a wrestling match. And once AEW fully leaned into Hangman as this flawed but dangerous main event guy, the quality of his matches strengthened. Coming in at number 3, we've got the best bout machine, Kenny Omega. So, this man's resume is ridiculous. All throughout his career, this man's resume is just dumb. It's like, how do you argue with it? I can't argue with that. Once you start going to the top 200, his name is just everywhere. in singles matches, tag matches, trios matches. He's got international stuff. He's got dream matches, world title matches, Forbidden Door matches, hardcore matches. If it ties back with the Young Bucks, you guys remember the Best of 7 series? Bro, and somehow they all feel different from each other. He never has the same match twice, even if it's with the same opponent. The Ospreay matches alone would already put his name near the top of this list. But then, Danielson at Grand Slam, there's Pac, Moxley, Takeshita, OC, Ray Fenix, the Elite entanglements, his work with the Young Bucks, Takeshita, Swerve. His resume is unfair, honestly. What Kenny does is, which one thing I do like about most of these big match guys is they make a match feel a certain way. Specifically them. They make it feel a certain way just by being there. One thing Kenny's good at doing is making matches feel bigger than normal matches, even if they are normal matches. The most simplified moments feel amplified around him. Which one, his theme song helps with. Two, his new theme song was really good at doing. Every match felt like a boss battle. Even if it's two people, even if it's him versus someone on the exact same playing field as him, contendership-wise, it feels like his opponent was walking into a boss battle. And it still feels like that, even with Battle Cry. At this point, there's still really a strong argument that Kenny Omega is AEW's greatest overall big match wrestler ever. Now, coming in at number 2, although not necessarily active, we're talking about AEW all-time. We got the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson's average placement, honestly, might be the best overall. Because in the short span of time that he was active, his matches consistently ranked near the very top of AEW history, whether it's top 20, top 50, over and over. Because pretty much every single opponent he faced felt elevated afterward. Ospreay, Swerve, MJF, Omega, Kingston, Daniel Garcia, Zack Sabre Jr., Hangman Adam Page, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and probably the biggest example, Jack Perry. And what stands out the most about him is, similarly to Claudio Castagnoli, technical wrestling works. Violence works. Sprints work. You can do a sprint with him. You can do a 60-minute Iron Man match with him. Tournament matches work. Main events work. Bryan Danielson flawlessly adapts to basically everything. And somehow almost every single style feels natural for him. His AEW run honestly feels like one of the best late career runs any wrestler's ever had. And coming in at number 1, you could probably safely assume who it is. It's the aerial assassin, Will Ospreay. Ospreay's numbers when you realize he signed in 2023, right now he already dominates. Because even before he signed with AEW, in like Forbidden Door style matches before he was signed, when he was signed with New Japan, even those top. Kenny Omega Forbidden Door, top. He's got top end placements, 5 stars, so many of them. Just the averages of his matches on Cagematch are ridiculous. He's got the critically acclaimed matches. He's done the dream matches. Pretty much every single wrestler he goes against has their best match with him, or at least one of their top 3 matches with him. He had one of the greatest matches of all time with Bryan Danielson. He's had so many of the greatest matches of all time. He's had so many classics with Omega, Takeshita, Adam Page, Kyle Fletcher, Pac, Swerve, MJF, Darby Allin, Ricochet. He did the Continental Classic, went crazy. About to do the Owen Hart Cup for the 2nd time. And one of the most exceedingly impressive things about Will Ospreay is the expectations that are put on him. Every single match that Will Ospreay enters has the highest expectations on the roster because of his resume, his early AEW run and before. TNA, New Japan, Rev Pro, all that. And somehow he continues to exceed all of the expectations, which is uncommon. It's rare. At this point, statistically, critically, and if I'm being honest, culturally, within wrestling, Will Ospreay feels like AEW's best big match wrestler. Or, honestly, the best big match wrestler in the industry right now. But all in all, what usually separates great wrestlers from the wrestlers the companies build entire eras around is consistency in these huge moments. Again, anybody can have a great match, but becoming somebody that fans expect to deliver time and time again, when the lights are brightest in the biggest arenas, biggest stadiums, on the pay-per-views, on the weekly shows, in the tournaments, in the tag matches, in the trios matches, on the Anarchy in the arenas, on Stadium Stampedes, in the Casino Gauntlets, all that. That is very different. And after looking through all of that, AEW has for sure built a roster full of wrestlers who thrive in those situations, which is one of the reasons why AEW's major shows feel so important all the time. Because when it comes to AEW, the best AEW wrestlers usually get even better when the lights are brightest. I do have honorable mentions because this is what shows how crazy AEW's roster is. Because there are several wrestlers who could have easily made the top 10 depending on what you value the most. First honorable mention goes to Darby Allin. Darby, being how fearless he is, he might be the most fearless big match wrestler in the company, which I feel makes a great world champion. Once the stakes get high, he gets more reckless. And I think it's impressive how often that works. His matches with MJF, matches with Christian Cage, that All In Coffin match, Ospreay, Swerve, Takeshita, Samoa Joe, Brody King, multiple major tag team matches, and his tournament work in general. All of them feel physically and emotionally intense because of how reckless he is. And Darby's probably the best underdog performer in the company when it comes to making crowds completely believe he could survive these impossible situations. Next up, probably my favorite of these honorable mentions, Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher's huge jump in the company has been crazy over the last 2 years. At first, he was viewed as the half of Aussie Open when they first showed up in those Forbidden Door United Empire matches. After Mark Davis's injury and he got that singles run and that big push against Ospreay with the Don Callis family, now he's fully established as a singles big match wrestler. And he's been literally everywhere and done everything in the company possible. He's done the Ospreay matches, the Mike Bailey match, the Mark Briscoe matches, Jon Moxley, Ciampa, the tag matches with that he's still done tag matches with Mark Davis, still done major tag matches with Takeshita and Okada. Just the general Don Callis family stuff with Kyle Fletcher has been fantastic. The main thing I want you to focus on with Kyle Fletcher is how quickly AEW fans accepted him at that level. Once the Ospreay rivalry happened, Fletcher pushed the gas on his in-ring work and immediately felt like a main event caliber in-ring performer. Next up, I have Pac. Pac is one of the strongest match quality averages in the company. He just doesn't wrestle as frequently as some of the other names. But whenever he gets a major singles match, it always delivers. Think of Omega, Ospreay, his feud with Orange Cassidy, Okada, his trios matches, his Death Triangle matches, even his long-term feud with Darby Allin, including that most recent championship match. Pac's offense is very sharp, very believable, and very fast, and his pacing in high-level matches is very underrated. He's one of AEW's safest this match will be great wrestlers. My fourth honorable mention will be Mercedes Moné. Mercedes already feels like one of the most important big match women's wrestlers AEW's ever brought in, with the Toni Storm match, the Statlander match, Athena, and Jamie Hayter. Almost immediately her major matches started landing near the top of AEW's women's match rankings. Her matches feel structured differently. She typically, similar to Becky Lynch, but in a different way, adapts really well to different opponents and different match styles. Mercedes can very perfectly mimic her opponent's styles. And she showcased that in New Japan Strong, she's showcased that in CMLL, she's showcased that around the world. And she's become one of AEW's women's division's foundational stars. The next honorable mention I have is Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy is legitimately, I am not joking, one of AEW's most dependable big match wrestlers, especially if you recall his international championship run. Because beneath all the comedy stuff, his major matches almost always have a very good pacing and the crowd is always invested in him. Orange Cassidy is legitimately a phenomenal professional wrestler, and the Ospreay match especially changed how a lot of people viewed him officially. Then you had the Jon Moxley matches, the Zack Sabre Jr. matches, the multi-man stuff, the international title defenses, all of his work with Pac. Cassidy's an interesting case. Because his character's so nonchalant, his matches build through exhaustion rather than spectacle. And because AEW crowds often react very well to more realism-based selling, the crowds connect with that really strongly. And my last honorable mention is Toni Storm. Toni Storm's rise as a complete performer has honestly been incredible, because at this point her character work and her match quality have both been operating at an elite level simultaneously. Her feud with Mariah May elevated her big match reputation massively, specifically, but even outside of that, Jamie Hayter, Mercedes Moné, and her major AEW women's title matches. She's become very consistent, and what makes her matches stand out now is how emotionally committed she feels to her matches. Around the Timeless Persona, every single thing feels a bit more grandiose, and that was very well done on her part. Speaking of Darby Allin, I think it's very fitting that the current AEW World Champion Darby Allin made this list. If you want to see why I believe his World Championship run is working, you can watch this video right here. And if you want to see highlights of Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher's steel cage match from my perspective in the crowd, you can watch the AEW Revolution 2025 vlog right here. And since now you know where to go, get off my video. Get off my video. Wait. Now that I think of it, as of the time of this upload, we've reached 500 subscribers. I think that's quite interesting. That's very cool. You know what the next goal is, guys?